This is our energy session number 2, everyone, with Kathy Davenport, a dear old friend, not old, but long-term, I guess, friend, and one of my original clients with Monobrand
Mm.
Marketing way back in the day. And Kathy's had a very interesting evolution in her trajectory in doing this work, which I'll ask her about to give us a little back history, from being an intelligence officer with the U.S. Air Force to now being a psychic medium, guide, intuitive, and podcaster with people in the space. So I'm blessed and privileged that you accepted, Kathy. This is going to be a
Thank
free
you.
form conversation, see where spirit takes the message, and just wanting to share this with our community so that if people want to have a resource to go to and talk to, all your contact info will be in our intranet portal for them along with this recording. So I guess off to the races. Would you give us a little background? How the heck did you get into this at this time and that trajectory a little bit?
Okay, well, as you mentioned, and again, thank you so much for having me.
You more
Uh,
than welcome.
You know,
Mahalo, mahalo, as we say.
I love your background.
Thank you. That's our
Describing
shalom, shalom is mahalo, mahalo.
it sets the tone perfectly. So, where did I how did I get here? Obviously, you mentioned I was an intelligence officer in the Air Force. I spent my service career there, retired out of the Air Force, and then just started doing a couple of other things. Pretty much typical career path. You leave one path, and then you decided to take on some other things. And I
Yeah.
worked for some corporations. Worked for a politician at one point, not because I was political, but because she knew I could get things done because of my military background. And did some worked as a professional photographer, but through all of those times, I always kept telling myself, there's something more I'm supposed to be doing. Even though I was doing well in all these different aspects and I loved what I did, I always felt there was something more. And I kept thinking, what is it? What is it? There's something more that I'm supposed to be doing. Well, I was working with a coach and basically kind of a life coach type thing. And she said, why don't you just lean into that intuitive side, those intuitive readings that you've been telling me about? And I said, well, no, I really can't tell people about that. I mean, here I was a military officer with a
Yeah.
top secret clearance previously. Don't tell people.
You all about the UFOs.
Right, you don't tell people that, "Oh my gosh, you know what? I'm kind of woo." And then the same thing, I was in the political arena for a while working for a politician and then even ran for politics myself. Again, just thinking I could help people. That was my basic premise, was wanting to help move the needle a little bit, help people, and do what I could to be of service to others. And anyway, back to this lady, she invited me to a retreat that she was having, and it was really about it was a self-discovery type retreat. And I needed that at that point in my life because I had a lot of different changes going on. And she said, I want you to offer to the other women at this retreat y- some readings, if you don't mind. Just offer them free, just so that there's no, you
How
don't have to
long ago
feel
was this? How long ago was this time frame?
this retreat was now coming up on 2 years.
Okay,
So
so
this
fairly
October,
recent
2 years.
history then. Okay,
So it's been fairly recent, again, I knew there was something more.
right.
I always knew that I could read people very well. I had a high intuitive. I could always sense things. I could pretty much look at a person and say, "Okay, I know what's going on here."
That probably
So she
served
said,
you well in the intelligence
"You
field
know what? At first,
too.
I didn't think it did,
Yeah,
because I'm
yeah,
thinking, how do you marry logic with this other stuff, this
yeah.
intuition?" Now I look at it and I'm thinking it was a perfect blend, and that's really what I'm
Right.
teaching now and training
Interesting.
others. It
Interesting.
was a perfect blend of skills, and going into the intuitive realm is just another skill set. So she encouraged me to do the readings for some of the women, and about 10 women out of the 16 we had time to do readings for. And they were shocked. I was shocked at what I was able to read for them, because every reading was unique. Everything was so clear. And what I was telling them, I had no knowledge of their backgrounds. And then, but then they said, how did you know? Or how did you hit on that wound? Or just something that triggered them that said, oh my gosh, I didn't realize I still was carrying that episode
Yep.
from a childhood episode.
Yeah.
And then just I was seeing paths, I was seeing paths of where they should go. They were asking me things about what was on their future path, and I told them, "Here's some options." And then they were asking about, past lives, and I could see their past lives as well, and what that did is it confirmed to specifically one woman why she was on the path of learning that she was on, because it's something she had already been doing millennia ago. I saw her on this path. She was working with scholars, and she was really, really very keyed in to people. And
Okay.
so it was just an interesting path. So that really, and they told me, they said, you need to be doing this full time. You got to go do it. And I said, well, maybe. And so, and then but with their encouragement, I really just said, you know what, it's time to step into this, because and then everything just started feeling so complete and
Mm.
so right. I thought, okay, this is what I've been waiting to do and what's been really, really calling me.
So you had already been officially retired from kind of the traditional, what we call the corporate world, right?
The
Even though it's
corporate world.
military, that kind
Right.
of three.
Yeah, I had a military I had a full well, I had a full military career and retired from that, and then was having my own career as a professional photographer.
Right.
And then I got approached by a politician who said, "Come work for me because I know you know how to get things done." So I
Yeah.
did that for about 2.5 years, and that was
Okay.
enough. In the political realm, that was enough. And then got hired away by a corporate health and
Yeah.
wellness company. And then I had enough of that. That one was actually a contract, a short contract. So I did that. And then I thought, you know what? I'm done with working for other people at this point now. I feel like I've completed that journey, and
Right.
now was time to just start exploring some other things.
So that experience, that invitation from spirit 2 years ago, you've been on this road all in full time since that time.
I would say all in, yes, mentally or in the background, yes. But like everything, we kind of have these highs and lows
Yeah.
where we have that self doubt. It's like, should I really be doing this? Or you look at other readers and you say, well, I don't read like they do. So maybe I'm not as good.
Yeah.
And so you have that doubt. And then you get somebody to come along and kick you a little bit and say, yes, you are good at this. You are, you're not supposed to be like
The
everybody. You're
encouragement
all
spirits come into our
and
world,
that's
right?
exactly it. And they said, "Just get yourself out there." I actually had a lady I was interviewing for one of my podcasts, and she's an intuitive, and she goes, "So now when are you putting yourself more fully out there?" And I thought,
Mm.
"Ooh, we're recording this."
Wait, I'm interviewing you, not the other way around.
And
It's right.
it was so profound, and she just
Yeah.
kind of went on, she says, "The world needs what we have to offer. And you need to put yourself out there because these times people need assistance. They need guidance. They
Right.
need more in-depth information. So she kicked me. And that was just, last week.
Awesome.
So
You
now
know,
it's like, okay, I'm changing up some things, doing this and feeling really, really
there's
good.
probably a lot of people who find their way to you, look at your bio, read the background, feel very comfortable that you were so grounded in the left brain kind of side of it, right? And
I
that you're then evolved to do this from that place. And they're like, okay, I feel more comfortable with her than somebody who might have been doing it since they were 12 or something like that.
Right. Yeah. Some people have been doing it a long, long time. And I've had this ability, this gift for sensing things, intuition, knowing things ahead of time. And, but I didn't, again, I just kind of buried it because I went to a very traditional career where that's not really the thing that you want to talk about. And,
Correct.
and so, yes, so I went through that period. And I think that background, knowing that, hey, yeah, I'm very, very grounded in where I was and what I was doing and happy doing what I'm doing. But I've had a lot of life experience in there that I can now bring to this as well.
What kind of advice do you give to people when they come to you and they have a similar kind of trajectory? There's something they feel like they're not doing, not accomplishing, being called to do with gifts or talents, this itch that they're trying to scratch. What do you tell them about how spirit guides us to get to that alignment or invites us to come to that kind of connection point, right? Where an epiphany might happen like you had a couple years ago.
Yeah, so
That's
thank you.
the
That's
truth.
it's a really good question because I get so much of that. People are coming to me because they're wanting to know more about their life path, and if they're
Yeah.
on the right path or they're feeling that there a change is needed or it's time for them to explore something different. And I've had I can think of just even 2 recent clients
Mm,
I've had that it was so profound, it sticks with me or it stands out. One was a client just recently who came to me for a reading because she was in the company as a whole was downsizing. So she knew that her IT career was probably gonna be in jeopardy. And so she said, "But, what else should I be doing?" And I said, "Well, let's take a look." And I said, "You know what? I'm seeing colors and art. I'm getting this sense of creativity and color and artwork around." And I'm saying, I said, "Are you an artist by any chance?" And she goes, "I paint." And she goes,
mm.
"I haven't painted years." And she goes, "I was just thinking about getting back to that." And I said, "Well, I'm being shown that that is something that you maybe want to explore and get back to that." And I said, "If it's calling you, there's a reason that it's probably calling you." And she was eventually, she let me know a few months later that she was eventually, her position was eliminated, but she had started going back and getting paid. She's now selling her artwork in a gallery in Kansas City.
Oh my god.
So it's fantastic. And then another thing about life
And happy. And happy.
yeah, and she's happy. She's really doing what she was meant to do, and I started following her and looking at her work. It's beautiful.
Wow.
It's beautiful. Another way that the information that comes through can help people, it helps them make sense of where they are at the present
Mm,
or maybe where they're headed or some of the choices that they might want to examine a little bit closer. One woman I did a reading for, and I was taken back and shown a past life for her. And she was very regal. I could see her in this almost like Egyptian type setting, I guess is the best way that I could put it. And she, though, was one of the only women in this realm with scholars and philosophers and
mm.
scientists. And again, I'm talking hundreds of years ago. I it was just had this sense that it was a long, long time ago. It was a past life for her, but she was very well revered because she was so knowledgeable. So they consulted her opinions on just had discussion.
Like an oracle.
I think that's probably what she was.
Okay.
And she consulted with royalty and some of the highest scientists at that time. And I said, "That's what I'm seeing for your where you've been." And I said, "Now how that leads to today." And she goes, "Well, let me tell you how that leads to today." She goes, "I hate small talk."
Mm,
She goes, "I don't like little chit chat." She goes, "I love big, in-depth, really, really deep conversations,
yeah.
scientific, just explore theology, anything that you can imagine." She said, "I love these deep philosophical discussions with people." And she said, "I was looking at some potential career turns that might take me into that arena." And I said, "Well, I can tell you what I'm being shown is why that's probably coming back up for you is because that's what you've done in the past." And that's why, again, she didn't like the small talk. She wanted
Yeah.
I'm getting chills right now just talking. Whenever I get you get the chills on something, that's just
All that chicken skin in Hawaii.
yeah, chicken skin. And so it was just so clear that that's where she'd been and why she was being called back into that to get
Gotcha.
back on that path. So that's how I feel that readings can help people is it gives them additional clarity or confirmation even.
Mm.
Not something necessarily that they have to do, but something that they should maybe just pay a little bit more attention to and at least it's worth exploring if that's something that feels really, really right for them.
How does the information that brings up how does the information come to you? You mentioned you saw some things and stuff. What is it a certain clairs that work on your behalf or
Yes, I there's the 4 different clairs, the just the knowing, the hearing, the third eye, visual,
yeah,
see, and then just the sensing, that gut feeling that
right.
many, many people have. So I am a blend of all of those.
Okay.
And I've learned that, yeah, some people are stronger in one sense or the other. I've learned that I get it from all ways. So for me, whenever I do a reading for someone, though, it really starts out as a visual. And I tell people, I might just be looking down, but I'm being shown a scene. It's like a movie
Interesting.
through a soft filter focus, almost like I'm looking at it through wax paper or something, but I'm actually shown a scene. And so I just start describing the scene of whatever it is that I'm being shown. And then as that scene develops, I get the impressions. I said, "Oh, This is the sensation that's going on. This is just the knowing, or I'll even hear words of what's being said in there. And that's all the information that I pass along to whoever I'm doing the reading for. So it's a multi-sensory type of thing. And I tell people, you're welcome to ask me questions as we go along. I don't want people trying to feed me information, but I just,
Right.
if there's something you want me to elaborate on. So I make it just like kind of like how we're talking right now,
Right. Right.
a conversation.
What do you have a sense of whether that information is coming from their guides to you, from the universe, soul, Akashic rec, or all of the, all different places depending upon
It
what they
it
want?
it yeah, it depends on the individual. We never know who or what is going to show up. I do know that I have my own set of guides that provides information, and I believe that that's partially who I channel through, and I was introduced to them, and it's just, wow,
Yeah.
that's who's with me all the time and giving me information when I ask to do a reading for someone. But then more often than not, pretty much every time I read for somebody, I always get the sense or actually get the vision of their main guide. We all have guides, you know, actually even a chorus of guides, but we have a main guide. And at that time or whatever that person needs, that main guide will show up and just make themselves known. They might not be even really speaking so much, but
Mm,
I notice that they always just tend to stand in there's just a presence. They tend to stand in the imagery that I'm being shown. So I know that there's always their main guide, and I can describe that person to that guide. And I had one woman I was describing that guide to, and she goes, "Oh my gosh," she goes, "Does this guide also have hair down to here? Is her hair brown? She's wearing a cream colored dress." And I said, "You're describing exactly what I'm." So she was actually going into the
gotcha.
vision also, and she's taken my intuitive training now also, but it was really interesting. So yes, there are different levels. Sometimes deceased relatives come forward. Sometimes they're just standing in the background, acknowledging and saying, "We're here for support. Just let them know we're
I
here."
know you don't put forward that, and then correct me if I'm wrong, if mediumship is like one of your specialties, but you said they come through, people that have crossed
They
over,
do.
passed over, come through if they want to get something to their loved one. And can you talk a little bit more about that?
Yeah, mediumship. I had to really I was asked that question just a few days ago
Mm,
also about mediumship. Someone else was curious, am I really a medium? And I had to think about that. And really, into the traditional sense, a lot of people think that mediumship is the ability to connect with the deceased.
yeah.
All right. But I understand also now that mediumship is also the ability to connect with our guides. It
Mhm.
kind of
Okay.
depends on what your definition can be. Our guides, the angelic realm. So in that sense,
Ancestors,
yeah, ancestors, spirit guides, it can be all basically
anything on the
universe.
other side, right?
Yeah, basically, I think all mediums are psychics, but not all, but maybe not necessarily all psychics are mediums. I haven't really tried to tap into the mediumship in terms of accessing deceased, but I do know, and maybe it's just because that it really hasn't come up as much because maybe the questions that people are coming to me for are not the ones that the deceased, because I really believe, and I've come to know that the deceased can't provide us a lot of the higher information, the higher guidance. They're kind of still like
Right.
at
That
this level.
exactly.
They're at
Exactly.
this level. And when I'm doing readings for a lot of people, they want to know from a larger sense, a larger picture, what's
Yeah.
on my path. And so that's where the angelic realm, your angel guides, your guardian angels, that's where I'm pretty sure those types of guides tend to come in. So I channel those, or I do a mediumship through those kinds of guides. But have had, in the traditional sense of mediumship, the deceased, yes, I have had them come through as well, sometimes unexpectedly, like
Yeah.
uh,
Right. Right.
I was riding in a car with somebody, and with a friend of mine, and I said, "I'm just getting the sense there's 2 people in the back seat," and I said, I couldn't see them, but I could see them. I could see the details about them
Yeah.
in my
Yeah.
mind. And I described them so vividly because they were so vivid. And he got, and the man was chain smoking, but the woman, an older couple, the woman was just doing all the talking. and the guy was just sitting in blue jean coveralls and a plaid shirt, and the woman in an older dress, and, she just let him smoke, but she did all the speaking, and the person I was riding with, he said, "Oh, yeah, that's my great aunt and uncle." And she did all the talking, and they just let me know that they were just popping in to check on him and saying, "How you doing?"
Interesting. And they had somebody who could be that intermediary to convey that information because that person's energy density might not have allowed that perception directly.
Right.
Or they might have not validated it if it happened to them and they were alone. But having you there, they're like, okay, something's going on.
Yeah,
Interesting, right? I
yeah.
like what you said about the fact that we think just because somebody's crossed over, they're aware of everything. And Yeshua said, there are many rooms in my father's house.
Mhm.
Doesn't mean just because you went in the front room, you know
Right,
what all the rooms are, the basement, the top, all these different levels. And that's so true is that if people are coming to you, they're wanting the highest vibrational knowledge or insight or guidance. And just
right.
because their dad or mom crossed over, it doesn't mean they have access to that. They might want to come and say, I'm sorry, I love you, we're fine. Those kinds of things that are about them, but they may not necessarily be at an angelic-ish high level, especially if they just crossed over again.
Yeah, they are what I'm coming to understand, particularly through the information that I have been able to get through the different sources, is that our deceased relatives and even some of our ancestral
Right.
line, they are there primarily to show support. They're there to let you know you're not alone. We're here. We're good. You're part of
Gotcha.
our family line. We value you. We love you and can just offer any kind of emotional support that we might need. But then what I wanna call the higher realm,
Yeah.
they are the ones that I truly believe are showing us, "Okay, here's some more on your path. Here's another thing that you might wanna be aware of that's coming down your path, and you need to look at this." Whereas our ancestors and the recently deceased are just saying, "Yeah, you've always been strong. Remember how strong you were. Remember this about
You're
yourself."
loved, kind of
Yeah.
classic messages that we've heard, right?
Exactly right, and I think that's what some people, get the mistake that they're there or they're just to wanna give you confirmation of who you are and that, yeah, we shared this present lifetime, this a
Yeah.
physical lifetime, and we're good, and you're gonna be just fine. They really wanna offer that kind of
And we'll be here for you when you come across or whatever.
yeah,
That was my
exactly.
sense of all of it too, that you
Yeah,
hit it exactly from my understanding of it. This capability that you had from a kid that kind of was not on the shelf, but kind of not the lead as you were going through your military career and the corporate and other stuff, and now has come to the ascendancy, the gifting has come forward. Has that capability grown over the last few years? The more you use it, the more
yeah,
you're given, and the more you have access to, and the more confidence,
yeah.
comfort, use it or not lose it, but and it gets stronger, like going to a gym or something.
I wanna even know that it gets stronger, but the
Ah,
the awareness is there, as it is for many people. I think so many people have the ability to connect, but they deny it, as I did.
correct.
I
Right.
didn't really want to acknowledge it, so it just kind of sat in the corner, in a little
It
box.
waits for you.
It waits for you, and then there are signs, like, every day, even after all these years, there were always signs. That's when I started having this increased awareness, was that you know what? I actually was coaching clients and once in just traditional life coaching and was speaking with someone, and they said to me, did two different ladies on two different occasions within a 2-week period said, "Did you know that you were channeling information?" I was just giving off what I thought was some sound coaching advice to them,
Ah,
and they both the wording that they said was identical. It said, "Did you know that you were channeling information?" And, the words were just flowing, and I started thinking about that, and I thought, "Okay, this is probably why I'm so good at what I'm doing, is that it's not
yep.
anything I'm just doing, it's coming through me." And I realized the same thing was happening when I was giving motivational talks, or asked to give talks to organizations. I would rarely would prepare a script. I'd have maybe an outline of what they kind of wanted me to cover, And then the information would just come to me, and I would just give that information, and they'd ask me for a script, and I said, "I don't have one," because every talk was uniquely guided for that particular. And I could never remember exactly what it was. I might remember 2 or 3
That's it.
highlights,
So
but
they
that
use you as an instrument.
I'm being definitely used as an instrument,
Yeah.
and so but yeah, getting back to your question about has it strengthened, I think it's me actually just being more aware and
Allowing.
acknowledging it and allowing it to flow and to be able to use the gift, and, and the more that even I tell people, the more that you acknowledge it, because I started seeing random coincidences,
Right.
that those can't be coincidences, or I started hearing things and I thought, "Did I just hear that?" And then when I just said, "I really did just hear that whisper," or "I really just got that nudge." Like,
Start connecting the dots in the review mirror and like, "Oh my gosh, it's been
yeah,
there all along.
it's
I
been there.
just wasn't at the level of conscious connection with it."
That's exactly that's a really good term called the conscious connection.
Connection with it, right?
Yeah. And I
It's
think
so funny because I remember the picture I saw of you when we first started working together, were you in the full space suit that they wear for F-16s or something on the
oh, yeah.
ladder, and
Yeah,
you
I
were
was in a flight suit, yes.
and they have back seats and you would have to go up with the I'm like, "How can this person be the one that was flying fighter jets?"
That is why it's so.
Such a dichotomy.
It's a dichotomy. That's exactly what I was using. I said, here I go. I was giving intelligence information. I never, I got to fly. I don't want people to have a mistaken
No, no, you were in the
impression.
back
I was
seat,
in the
not
back
the
seat, but yeah, I was training fighter pilots. And then that's again like, no, I can't tell them that or I
You
was
tap
like,
the pilot, "Hey, your mother's here, and she wants to say something to you," and he's like, "What are you talking about? We're flying down
right, so it's just not something that you
Oh,
do. They would have had me. Ma'am, Major, we need to take you, back and review your security clearance.
correct, correct. We gotta pretty soon she's gonna be talking to us about Roswell. Speaking of which, people haven't seen Disclosure Day by Steven Spielberg, the movie that's out. That's an interesting one because, and I won't give it away, there's a scene in the movie where one of the main characters is able to intuit different things from different people,
Mm,
similar to what you're doing when you interact with people. She's given information to share with them, and blows them away
right.
that that curtain is so thin to some people that they can access it and bring that information forth to this
Mhm.
reality to share with them. So if you haven't seen the movie, when you see you'll be like, "That's
Oh,
what
yeah.
Whitney was
Yeah,
talking
it's
about."
on my list to go see. I just
It's very worthy of going to see. So I've been writing a couple of questions down as we go,
okay.
and we'll see where that takes the conversation. And we're about, we can go another 15 or 20 minutes if that's
Okay,
good still.
whatever time you have,
So
I'm
you're
available.
currently based in Hawaii, right? On
I
Oahu,
I am.
but you see people on Zoom or in person or everywhere over the world. I mean, doesn't matter.
Yeah, it doesn't matter. I mean, Zoom, look at us, we can
Yep.
connect anywhere. So I do have a handful of clients that are here in Hawaii and just like that face to
Right.
face. We have a cup of coffee together and that's perfectly fine. But for the majority of the people that I meet with, it's on Zoom just like this. And this gives me the ability to actually record the session for them. And then I
Right.
provide it to them so they can review it again later and pick up things that they might have missed when we were talking live.
I remember in the old days when I would go see psychics or mediums or readers, intuitives, we'd have the cassette tape. They would record the session on a cassette tape,
Yeah.
and I would be taking notes and have to go listen to the cassette.
Yeah.
Is Zoom being just an incredibly beautiful technological enablement to be able to
Yeah.
do this? Can you get enough for
Oh, yeah.
seeing people enter? Equal to maybe
Equal.
being
It's the
to
same.
being there.
Yeah. And I can do them over just a regular phone call.
Right, right.
Also, some people just, hesitate about, oh my gosh, I don't want to be on camera. I said, the camera is just there for you.
Yeah.
Zoom is just a means. I mean, I'm not showing it to anybody else other than the client. But yeah, look at what we can do now. I
Right.
mean,
Right.
sometimes the schedules and distances, even here in Hawaii, this people's schedules, I might want to get together with somebody for lunch or coffee, and we just go back and forth because their schedule doesn't allow it, or they've got things that they have to tend to. So I said, let's just hop on Zoom and connect. And it's still such a great way. So when I'm doing readings, it's I don't there's no difference in being able to connect or get the guidance. The energy is there. It comes in through the room. It's here. It's everywhere. It's universal. So I don't have to physically touch someone to or be in their little 6 foot space or 3 foot space to be able to get a
Isn't
good.
that interesting that one of the positive things that came out of COVID was this?
Yeah.
I don't know if this technology would have taken off quite the way it has and evolved as quickly as it has, but Zoom saved a lot of
Yeah.
businesses and relationships and whatever, and caused change in a lot of them
Mhm.
too, through that. And that's when I really started using it with work. And then it was a way to keep in touch with everybody else.
Yeah.
It's continued on even now to this.
Yeah. Technology is so fantastic. I think there are people who resist technology, but then it's just something you have to embrace it. You could use it to whatever degree you want to, but it's like everything else.
Is that
It's
the
your
same,
choice.
feedback you would have about AI and all of the stuff that's coming? I mean,
Yeah.
positive, negative, all the noise on either side of it, right?
Yeah. And again, to me, AI and any other technology, it's a tool. It's a tool. It's up to you how much you want to use it or learn about it and embrace it or not embrace it.
Right.
I met a gentleman before and he just said, I'm still so analog. I thought, what's that word? Anyway, but
Yeah.
that was him. He says, I'm very analog. And I thought, you know what? That's
You
totally
do you.
you.
You
If
do
that's your
you.
comfort level, no need to hide from that.
Now, question for you. So, how do you frame things that happen to people like divorce, disease, dislocations in living situation, house on fire, you lose everything, major, major kind of life impact, life trauma kind of things. How do you help people frame or reframe those kinds of things in their life and to see them
Yeah.
potentially in a different light? Is that a hard one?
You know what? I think somebody told me, and we were having a conversation. I was having a conversation with someone the other day that about this earth experience. We
Yeah,
all came and chose to be here, incarnate, if that's the word you want to use,
right.
to be here. We chose to be
I
because of the lessons that we.
want to see that agreement. Okay. I want to review that
That's
contract.
what a lot of people said.
I want to
Where
see
did
it
I say?
now and see if I initialed really.
Yeah, where did I really sign those pages that said,
Thank you.
for me, that I was gonna go through a cancer experience, that I was going to go through, a divorce, death of a spouse, and so on and so forth, and all these hardships there, or get fired from a job,
Right.
all of this stuff, and I said, "Where did I sign up for those dark ages?" Right? So in a sense, I mean, there is a train of thought that says, you know what, you signed up for this. You
Yeah.
wanted this experience to be able to add to your collective knowledge so that you could continue to evolve and grow. And I believe that we all are going to go through these experiences at some point in our life. I don't think anybody here on earth has
Right.
a
Free,
completely
clear
smooth,
pass.
a free pass. Go to collect your $200 and go to, go. We all are here, and I think everybody has some level of learning, and sometimes they're not going to get it all in this lifetime. So they've signed up to come back again. You know, but how do you get through those? I think it's a matter of learning it, knowing that those are experiences. For me, the cancer was I never really tried to hold on to those. All of these experiences, like, okay, this is something I'm going through right now, and I just need to accept this and kind of let it flow through me and learn what I can from it. And I think if I can tell anyone about any of these hardships that they might, no matter how difficult, I
Right.
can't do anything to really ease the pain for them, but it's really your own taking it in and determining how are you going to react to it? What is your own response going to be to
Mm.
this? And I think the
Which is
part
all
of
you can really control.
that's the only thing that you can control. So when I was diagnosed with cancer, I never said, "Okay, I have cancer." My response was, "I'm having a cancer experience. Temporary, I don't own it."
This too shall pass.
That's exactly how it is. So everything that I've looked at that has been deemed maybe a hardship, I have to go back and look at and think about, or even anything that might be on the path forthcoming, which I hope not
Right.
too much. But it's like, you know what? There's a lesson in this that something is going to happen that I need to learn. I need to gain from this. But then it's also what I think in terms of like a checks and balances, because you're going to have these low periods and then you're also going to have these high periods. It's like when I was a photographer, you have to have the dark, the shadows to
The
create the
wave.
light. Yeah, it's the waves. So you'd have to
Yeah,
have,
that's good. The dark and the light
yeah,
created.
you have to. I mean, you can't have a great image without a dark, a dark contrasting, and then to
Yeah.
show the light side of things. You cannot have a great. And if you look at any kind of imagery, and you'll
Interesting.
notice always though that the lightest part of any image, that's what your eye is drawn to first.
It's funny when you're talking about that, I was thinking about like the Ansel Adams photos and stuff, the famous black and
Hmm.
whites.
Yes.
Just black and white. The
Yeah.
contrast was how he
Yeah.
created the drama. And
Exactly.
it was object was beautiful, but how he framed it made it
That's
completely
yeah, and that's
special,
the
magical.
thing. That the framework, how do you choose to frame this
Mm.
experience? Are you gonna continue just to let it drag you down, or are you going to say, "You know what? I'm gonna look at this, I'm gonna take this, whatever knowledge that I'm supposed to get out of this," learn to look at things also from a different angle,
Yeah,
you know? And
that's
and
right.
then continue to keep moving forward. Just keep moving. If you can allow yourself to just sit there if that's what you want, but at some point, it's like, let me and that's where what the work that I do is helping people, and I think so many other people as well, not just me. The best kind of advice that you can get is someone who will help you look at things from a different angle
And reframe it.
and reframe it.
We hear a lot of times, how do you look at how is this being done for me versus to me? Yet, when you're going through your cancer experience, if you just went up to somebody and be like, "Hey, how's cancer working for you?" If they don't have the proper context, they're going to look at you as like, "Wow, that's a really mean thing to say. This is not something I ever wanted anywhere. It's being done to me. It's bad luck or random or heredity or whatever." They don't feel like they may have any complicity in the experience. They're on the receiving end of a
Yeah,
bad thing that's happening. Uh,
yeah, yeah.
oh, okay, that's
Yeah, again, I was fortunate to have had a mentor who, prior to my ever having this diagnosis, who
yeah,
was saying, it's like with people, he goes, it's really, one, you don't own it. Just recognize it as an experience, but then look to the other side of it and say, you know what? I mean, my whole mindset going into this was, I'm gonna get through this and I'm gonna be well and good. And that was my mindset. And sure enough, I had cancer surgery but came out of it well.
yeah.
I'm
And now
fine.
you have that to be able to talk to people about
Mm,
who are having it or might have it in the future, and you have that bona fide credential because you've walked some of that walk.
it's nothing I wish on anyone,
Yeah,
and my, sympathy to anyone who is having this experience, because there are various degrees of it, so I don't wanna simplify
right.
it by any means, but I do want to just acknowledge that, there are some tough things that people are going to go through, whatever it might be, but it's really about how you wanna frame that
Yeah.
within yourself. You frame that experience and keep moving forward.
And that's a good one. I watch language when I use that when talking with people. I don't say lesson as much, if at all, anymore, because in many cases that's a punitive one, especially if
Mm,
you went to parochial like school like I did, right? It's
mhm.
pass it's like there's a fail. You either pass or you
Yeah.
fail,
That
and there's a punitiveness to failing. So I use experience because that's more accommodating than this is a lesson. And did you get your lesson? And I can almost feel that kind of parochial kind of,
Yeah.
kind of energy behind it's a lesson. Did you get it? And if you don't get it, then you're going to repeat it. And it's just
Right.
that,
Yeah.
wow, called into the principal's office kind of vibe, which I was always scared of. Never happened, but I was always afraid every time my name would be, what did I do wrong now? It was
Yeah.
almost the default of that sense, in your neuroplasticity, right? One other thing came up when you were talking about that. I was like, wouldn't it be wonderful if there was a game board like Monopoly called Life Journey on Earth or something, Earth School? Wouldn't that be
Ooh.
fun?
Hey, we need to do that.
But you
I
need to
love
do that. I'm like, "What?" When you said,
Yeah.
collect 200 pass, go, I'm like, "Oh my god, there should be like a spiritual life
Woo!
journey."
Hey, let's talk.
I got that. Put that
We're
down.
gonna do
Anybody
that.
watching, you wanna collaborate, you're in, right? Thank you for that. Anything more on kind of reframing those kinds of life trials and tribulations, as Yeshua said we would all be experiencing and blessed with.
Really, it's just so much. I think where people need to have is really this inner knowing and this the more that I think that you know yourself and can be strengthened within yourself and have the clarity of what is your I guess I want to say purpose, but what is
Yeah,
your reason
yeah,
for being here, your service?
yeah.
When you can have that and hold on to that and be clear about that, I think just having that type of essence about you can really see you through anything.
Mhm.
It's kind of like that's your anchor. I'm
Yeah,
here to do this work. So for me, I am so clear on what I'm here for now that
right.
I all the other stuff, I don't care
Yeah.
what you might push towards me. I'm very clear on
It
where I'm
doesn't cling to the boat anymore like
Yeah, that's
tentacles,
just it,
right?
and I think so if I can tell anyone anything, it's to really just examine or get someone to help you to examine
That's it.
who you are and find that clarity and find that anchor, so to speak, and that is what's going to keep you grounded, but also keep you motivated to moving forward.
That's really your lighthouse, your North Star guiding. We have a beautiful word in the Hawaiian language, kuleana. What is your kuleana? And as you said, find a guide, an advisor, someone like yourself that can take you into looking at what your kuleana for your purpose, your
Yeah,
spiritual
yeah.
calling is, what your spiritual responsibility is, what is in alignment with your life path, right? Kind of.
Exactly.
So
That's exactly it. And I think, when people are feeling stressed about anything, it's probably because they're out of alignment.
there you go. That's it.
And
That's it.
so people need to be, be more in alignment with themselves, be in more agreement and honor themselves in that
I'm
way.
looking at my questions as we come down to our timing. If
Sure.
people have lasted this long, that's pretty good. Before we end, I want you to just talk about what you offer, how people can interact with you. They'll have your contact information, your website, the classes you're offering, just a little bit about that. My last one, though, and watch it. Here's the doozy. I saved it for last. You mentioned past lives, right? And we throw that term around a lot and it's become very popularized. Then you hear other people are like, there's no past or future, it's all happening concurrently. And you're like, what?
Parallels.
I just got used to past lives and thinking about future lives. There's more than just this life. And now you tell me, no, it's all happening concurrently. So I was Cleopatra and not then, and I'm Cleopatra now. I mean, how do you understand that kind of
Yeah. I
multiverse craziness?
the way that I look at past lives are what we have been taught to recognize as our previous experiences or our experiences because we live in a linear lifetime. The
Yep.
lifetime that we're here now, it's things just happen. Okay, we were born yesterday, we're living right now. Here's tomorrow. Look at our clocks. Everything is linear. So we talk about past lives in a linear sense because that's the easiest way for the brain to adjust to that.
Understood.
Where in reality, though, it makes perfect sense that really we are living in multiple lifetimes at the same time. All of these, what you want to
So
call
wild.
parallel, parallel lifetimes, and we have the ability to shift into them. And I've done some experimenting with that as
Yeah.
well as just
Yeah.
putting yourself into that
So
other.
you've had direct experience that is indeed accurate.
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah. And you can anybody can kind of try that on a simpler
Yeah.
basis, it's really just thinking, "You know what?" It's kinda selfish, but in my way, I was thinking one night, I thought, "Okay, tomorrow I've got this golf tournament. I
Mm.
really want to think of myself. I am a a super golfer." I forget what exact phrases, but I said, "You know what? I'm gonna go into this. I am really good. I'm great at hitting this." That next day, I played my best round ever.
Wow. The athletes talk about this all the
Yeah,
time. Michael Jordan always would play the games in their mind and see themselves winning already done. It's
yeah.
already done energetically. He just needs to show up and go through it. Right.
Yeah. So I just really think I just shifted that I
Gotcha.
wanted to be in I wanted to be the great golfer in that lifetime. I wanted to live that experience. So I just kind of
Wow.
shifted into it. And then I shifted back, but then I shifted.
Yeah, this
But
whole
I mean,
stuff becomes very malleable then, doesn't it?
yeah, but
There's
I
not the same density to the 3D. You
yeah,
can kind of listen to all the radio stations
yeah,
at the same time and then like, "Oh, okay, I like jazz better. I'm gonna stay with that one for a while." But
exactly.
listen, you can hear all the other ones going at the same time and hold that multiplicity, right?
Yes. So
Wow.
so again, I think past lives are just really a way that we have been
Understood.
conditioned to
A
think
language.
of. It's an understanding. It's easier
Yeah.
for people to understand than thinking, "Oh, I can bounce from this one to this one to this one."
Now, on that note, if people want to work with you or learn more about this craziness, because I know you'll talk initially to
Sure.
people to kind of see if there's a fit, tell me a little bit about your services and then we'll just
Okay.
wrap up and I'll make sure all those links are in the intranet site where this recording is going to exist.
Right. Okay, thank you. Yeah, for people who, one of the best ways to get to know me and work with me is to request a private reading.
Okay.
And those are available on my schedule on my website at kathleendavenport.com. One of the deeper services that I do offer, though, is what I call a private mentorship. It's a 6-week private mentorship for applied intuition. And this is for people who are wanting to know how to develop their own gifts, their own intuitive
Mm,
abilities and to be able to bring that into the workspace or their relationships or just their day-to-day living. And the reason I started doing this, or one of the things that makes me unique in the way that I offer it, I don't teach a generic, okay, here's step 1, step 2, step
yeah.
3, you got to go into meditation. What I do is I do an assessment of each person. There's actually a science-based assessment that I use, and it's, out there that I've been trained in. But then I take that assessment, it's basically a behavioral assessments that really talks to that individual. And so I take that information and then we apply it to their intuitive knowing and their communication skills.
Very cool. There you go,
Everybody
combining your
yeah,
left brain intelligent agent stuff with your new age woo woo kind of
it
intuitive.
works
Wow.
so beautifully
The
because
form is
it
what
is
it
a force
is.
multiplier
Mhm.
because some people don't we all take in information differently. So a cookie cutter a psychic development type training, that's why people get stuck with it because they're all trying to say, okay, I got to go into this deep meditation. Well,
Yeah, yeah,
may
yeah.
not be the way you're wired. I'm not
Right.
wired for deep meditation.
Yeah. I'm
I'm
the same way.
wired differently. So I started teaching people that you're wired differently. Here's really how you get information.
That's awesome.
It's going to be a
And that's through the website. They can get that.
they can get that. They can get talk to me about applied. It's called applied intuition on my.
Yeah.
It's a private mentorship that people can
Is there a link on the website I can put?
it's on the website. So if they
I'll
just go to my website that says kathleendavenport.com,
call
and then
that out.
across the top there is a button for applied intuition.
So the metaphor I see is kind of like if they do a private readings, you're fishing for them. If they come and do the training, the 6 weeks in water, they're learning how to fish for themselves
Yeah,
in many ways. And
yeah,
people come to it at all different levels, and they might be like, "I just want you to fish for me. That's it.
yeah,
Go get
exactly.
this.
That's
Give me
that's
the
a great
information.
way to
I'm
put it.
happy with that." And other ones are like, "Wow, this is super cool. I have these latent. I've been feeling this. I want to learn more. I want to be able to do this for myself and potentially others." Right?
Yeah,
Uh,
themselves or even their
It
clients.
might
That's
be their calling or
yeah,
incorporated into their traditional business offering.
exactly right. Exactly right.
This might be, right? Um, Other ways of interact if somebody just wants to talk to you a little bit and kind of vibe out if it's the right thing, do you have a short period of time that they can do
Yeah.
that or reach out to you by
They can reach out to me through my website, send
okay,
there's a
okay,
contact me through there, send me a short email, we can, hop on a phone call, we can do a text exchange or email,
okay,
whatever's most comfortable for them. People can also find me through social media, I'm pretty much on all the social media channels, Facebook, Instagram. I'm
okay,
actually on YouTube, and then I've got the podcast that's on
okay, good. I'll put a
all the
YouTube
major
link up.
stations.
Send me those links and I'll make sure they're in
Okay, thank you.
report, if you will. And any final thing, any good books or movies you think people might like? And if not, I can throw one or two in and recommend.
Gosh,
So
any good books? It's been a while, I have to admit. See, this is where I kind of one of these bouncy around people. That's why I can't do meditation. I can't sit still long enough. I haven't been to the movies in a while, so but I do want to go see the Disclosure one
there you go.
because it's
There
a
you go.
curious one for me. Any good books? I don't have a good book that I at
I'll
my
give
hand.
one for
Yeah.
everybody. The movie Soul, it's the animated one by Pixar, now owned by
Okay.
Disney, that talks about the little spirit that incarnates
Ah,
and his trials and its trials and tribulations around that.
oh,
It's
interesting.
delightful and very accurate. I think it's a great one for people to watch and see if this is a completely new topic for them,
Mhm.
a new thing
Yeah.
that, and it'll make it a lot less woo woo about
Yeah.
how it works, and Pixar did a wonderful job many years ago. It's called Soul.
I'll
I'll put
take a look
that
at it.
little link in there also. And you know the other great one, Defending Your Life, with Albert Brooks and Meryl Streep about people pass and what happens on the other side. It's a
Oh,
rom-com
I'll have to check
comedy,
it out.
but
I
it's
will
delightful. So Defending, I'll put that in there
put
too.
that in there too, just for
All
some
right.
good stuff.
And if you come up with anyone, I can always add it in.
Okay, awesome.
All right. Any last words? And then we'll just say mahalo, mahalo, mahalo for this.
I thank you so much for this. You just,
Thank you.
you've been I've been a fan of you. We've been friends for so long.
Yes.
So it's
Thank
so delightful
you.
to be able to do this kind of conversation and
Yeah,
it
and
just
I'm really happy to be able to bring people who are, I just call them energy practitioners, energy alchemists like
yeah,
yourself,
I like it.
to bring that these people and make it personable and approachable for folks that, wow, I like their vibe or their energy. I might want to talk to them. And that's what I hope this accomplishes. So, like you said, to be of service to the people that we work with and that we're in relationship with. So, mahalo, mahalo.